Hey everyone, and welcome to Speak with Estate Planner, the YouTube channel where we educate people about everything estate planning while interviewing everyone's favorite estate planning attorneys. I'm Heath Ross, your host, and today I'm speaking with Rilus Dana, an estate planning attorney in Mesa, Arizona. Rilus, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Heck yeah. A lot of couples have questions about estate planning, and it's not always easy to find the answer. So today we hope to answer a few of those basic questions and get to know you a little bit more. So I'll just jump it right into that first question. Can you share what kind of attorney you are and maybe what helps make your practice unique?
Yeah. So what kind of attorney? Hopefully I'm a good one. I'm an attorney that hates attorneys, I would say, is a summary. So it's what makes my practice unique. We focus really on digital asset planning, I would say. And so where that comes into place, like what happens to the pictures on your iPhone, the way estate planning has really changed in the last, throughout my career. I've been an attorney for 10 years, but I've been in this industry for about 20 years. All through college, I worked at my dad's law firm. So,
right. Yeah, I saw on your website that it said that you were a second generation law firm.
Yeah. So, second generation estate attorney.
Okay, nice. Is it the same name?
Kind of. We all, So my brother and my dad practice as well, and they're different Dana variations.
Nice. So. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. So I like to start off with just kind of this very simple question. And maybe you can give us maybe a 1 or 2 sentence answer and then expound upon it. And that question is, what is estate planning?
Estate planning, I would say, is the process of transferring or deciding where your stuff goes after you're gone and doing that in the most efficient way. So meaning avoiding probate and avoiding unnecessary taxes.
Perfect. I love it. I love just these simple answers, because some people don't even understand what the term estate planning means.
Yeah. A lot of people don't. It's kind of a complicated thing. So people hear estate planning, they think maybe real estate or they don't know what it is.
Right. So there's a lot of different documents that go into creating an estate plan. What are some of those documents?
The document. So the goal is to transfer your stuff right after you die. I'd say to add to that definition, I would say also to protect yourself during your life. So the documents that are included in our package for a married couple is powers of attorney are a good idea. Someone to make healthcare decisions for you if you're unable to. A financial power of attorney if you're someone to make financial decisions. A last will and testament designates where your personal property goes. And then we use trust in Arizona and California where I practice to avoid probate. And then as part of our plans, we also do a digital asset trust where you give specific instructions for how to deal with email. And if you want to give access to like the pictures on your iCloud or your Dropbox.
That's smart. Yeah. I imagine that becomes more and more relevant with technology and the way that it evolves.
Yeah. So, I've been doing the digital asset planning since we were allowed to, basically. The law was passed in 2016 that made this possible. California passed it in 2017. But I'm starting to hear the issue more kind of when it's too late. I'm hearing people when someone passes away and they say, how do we get their pictures on their iPhone?
Oh my goodness.
And if you haven't planned ahead for that, a lot of times it's too late is the answer.
Dang. Yeah. So it makes sense to plan ahead, obviously. And the digital part is becoming more and more important, now that, people have all these photos backed up on their iCloud. Being able to access that is a vital importance.
Yeah, I say, pictures, they used to be in a shoebox, right? Up until a period of time, they're in a closet in a shoebox, but at some point for most people now they're, in a computer or maybe in a cloud service somewhere. So if that's the case, it's important to provide for them.
Right. So So moving on to another question here, how do you like to work with people? What's the kind of the process of getting started with a new family or couple that needs estate planning?
Yeah. So the way it works, we call our first meeting the personal family legal session.
Okay.
And the way that works, my team will get them scheduled. They send them a short inventory to fill out, basic information like if they're married, do they have kids, what assets they have.
Mhm.
And then I'll meet with that family. I'll discuss what their goals are, what they're trying to achieve, and then I'll recommend the plan that I think is right for them. And then in that first meeting, I can usually quote a fee, and if they're ready to get started, we can start designing the plan right then.
Wow, awesome. You break it down like so simple. Like it makes so much sense the way that you explain it right there.
Yeah, if you're one of my clients, I'd bust out a picture, a diagram,
Uh-huh.
the timeline that I refer to over and over.
Wow.
Because I feel like as an attorney, it's our job to tell people, where we're going, when we're going to get there, and just kind of keep reminding over and over,
Right.
especially with something a little complex.
Nice. So when somebody reaches out to you initially, let's say that it was a phone call. What does that typical first conversation look like? And what do they take away from that initial conversation?
Well, it's definitely not with me when they call.
Okay.
It's going to be with one of my, with one of my assistants, one of my receptionists.
Okay.
And they'll be describing how they can meet with me by doing that personal family legal session.
Okay. Wonderful.
So my first conversation is what I just described. The first time I meet someone, ideally there's already a little bit of history, right? I can see that my team is scheduled a meeting. There's some notes, maybe kind of what they were looking for, and then I had the personal inventory so I can see kind of what their situation is, their family situation and assets.
So when people call initially, if I heard you correctly, your team will take down some information about them and schedule a meeting with you. Do they also send over maybe it's a sheet to gather even more information, or a packet, or what does that look like?
It's a link that they get.
Okay.
So before it was a link, it was only a 2-page document.
Mhm.
I see some attorneys that send like 15 and 20-page things
Mhm.
where it feels like homework.
Right.
And I remind my team that we're a service business. People pay us to make their lives easier. So, we try to do as much of the work for them, but we do need them to do just the basic information, like tell us what their names are and if they have kids, stuff like that.
Awesome. Yeah. A lot of people think of, when they're going to reach out to an attorney, that it's, they're already intimidated by it, because they think, oh man, uh, every time I've ever had to talk to an attorney, it ended up costing me a boatload, or I always felt like they were trying to, increase the number of hours that were billable on it. But estate planning is a lot different. There's a much larger being able to trust the attorney that you're working with, and the team that's helping you. And just the way that you describe it, it seems like your team really takes care of people, and you make it easy for people to get started working with you.
Yeah, that's the best compliment that we receive, is when it's done. People go, "Oh wow, that was easy," or that wasn't that bad.
Right.
So,
It's with your estate plan, it's like, this is something that you only need to do once. You might update it down the road, but you really only need to do it that one time. So it's important to get it right the first time.
yeah. So I recommend about every 5 years you should dust it off and review it.
Mhm.
But usually the hardest thing is getting started the first time. Once you already have a plan in place, then it's just about maintaining it, making sure your decision maker still makes sense and everything still makes sense for you.
Nice. Nice. Okay, so this is another fun question. What is the most common question that you receive about estate planning?
The most common question, a lot of times people say, well, what's the difference between a trust and a will? Or do I need a trust, or some variation about that?
Okay,
So
so let's go into that. What's the difference between a trust and a will?
well, to answer that, we talk about probate.
Mhm.
So usually I ask if people have heard about probate, and usually they haven't unless they've gone through it with the family member. but probate is the legal process to change title of an asset out of the name of the deceased. So I explained it in Arizona. Now, some states, I don't think probate's that big of a deal. Maybe on the East Coast, maybe trusts aren't as common because it's pretty easy to go through probate. But in California and Arizona, where I practice, the probate process is very time consuming and expensive. So the difference between a trust and a will just says where your stuff goes, but to activate it, you have to go through probate. A trust will actually transfer your assets after you're gone without probate.
Wonderful. You couldn't have said that any more clearly and succinctly. So that was awesome. That was a great answer.
Yeah, answer that probably literally maybe thousands of times at this point.
You're pretty good at it, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it just takes context and being able to answer it in front of somebody for it to really sink in, because there's not that much information out there that puts things into context like this.
Yeah. Now, during my client meetings, I like to use a PowerPoint presentation, especially the Zoom meetings. My first Zoom meeting a couple of years ago, I was horrible. I bombed, I would say. It was this guy from a different country. There's a little bit of a language barrier. There's a bunch of screaming kids in the background. So it was hard. Like in person, I can kind of control attention a little bit more, and I'm used to kind of writing things and drawing pictures. That's when I realized I had to make the process easier, even virtually. So I have a PowerPoint presentation where it's basically like cartoon characters, like my little language. So that's usually what I use to describe the probate and those things. And then I'll usually show people the type of trust that I recommend for them in a little animated way.
Nice.
Keep it very basic.
I'd actually, maybe after, we're done here, I might be interested in actually seeing what some of those cartoons look like.
Sure. So
That's wonderful.
So there's on my YouTube pages, there's some videos of those things for common questions like like what is probate, how a trust avoids probate, things like that. So it's another way where people can see those.
So you have a YouTube channel too. Tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so I have one for Dana and Associates, which is where I practice law in Arizona and California.
Okay.
And then I've been doing more content. I also have a channel called Mott Legal, which is for kind of more for the general public. My target is trying to be attorneys, right? Helping attorneys in their practice. But a lot of my audience is actually real estate investors. I have a lot of friends that are real estate investors, and they're a good source of clients for probates, because they're out there knocking on doors and they're finding people that want to sell, but the house is still in the name of someone who's deceased.
Right. Wow.
So.
Interesting. Very cool. So people should definitely check out your YouTube channel. If they have more questions about estate planning, what's another YouTube channel that they could check out?
Yeah. So my best contact is rilusdana.com, my first and last name.
Okay.
So that has a link to my website and my YouTube channels. And then I'm a regular guest on a couple of different shows on YouTube. So I have links to those as well. So
okay, wonderful. And we'll include all of those in the description. So I have just one last question for you. And for this, I asked you to kind of step out of that attorney role and think about when you set up your estate plan for yourself. What advice would you give to, maybe somebody, an individual or a couple that's just starting out getting their estate plan prepared? What advice would you give them that you wish you'd known when you'd started? Yeah.
So when I first did mine, so again, I was raised like basically in an estate planning law firm. So I was kind of familiar with this. And then after I got married and had kids and started acquiring assets, I knew that I needed to do this, right? But the challenge for me was I didn't know who I wanted to make my successor trustee or the guardian of the children. So that's what kind of gets difficult. So my advice would be just to start, because it doesn't get easier, right? You just kind of got to get started, and there's never a perfect choice. There's no perfect solution of who's going to do things in your absence. So you have to just kind of, I'd say get started, and then you can adjust later. And just realize like it's not a one-time set it and forget it thing. So in my mind, it should be reviewed about every 5 years. So
Right.
that kind of takes the pressure off too. Just get a plan in place
Right.
and know that you can always change it.
Okay. I really like that, because it's like, hey, it's better to just have something down and in writing so that you have it and it's there, rather than having the fear of upsetting somebody if you don't list them in the place that they feel like they're supposed to be listed. That'll just prevent you from getting it done and being able to then update it in 5 years. So it's better to just get it done than to not get started. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah. So I have on my website, I have a place where you can do a free last will and testament. But basically I coach you how to handwrite a will, because that's the easiest way to do it.
Right.
And especially for unmarried couples, because by default, your significant other is not included.
Right.
So that can be pretty devastating when people aren't legally married, but they've been together forever.
Right.
Like I've seen situations where one spouse will pass away and then the other one has to sell the house. That's the only asset, and half of it has to go to their partner's kids. So
wow, that's a neat tool that you provide. That's nice.
Yeah, so want to make it really easy for everyone and kind of take away the excuses. So I feel like you can get that done in less than 10 minutes, so that way you can have something in place, and then you can always improve on that later.
Nice, perfect, wonderful. And you mentioned your website and how people could get a hold of you before, but maybe you could share, is there a phone number, or would we refer people to the website?
Yeah, so I give a phone number too. So the website is where I practice law is danalegalhelp.com.
Okay.
And the phone number is 480-924-4424. And you can find all those things at rilusdana.com.
Awesome, wonderful. Rilus, thank you for being with us today. I super appreciate it. Again, this is Rilus Dana, an estate planning attorney in Arizona and California. I am Keith Ross with Speak with Estate Planner, and we will see you next time.
And thank you.